Hello everyone and welcome back to Camera West TV. Today we are going to look at something I personally have waited for Fujifilm to make for quite some time. Fujifilm just recently announced that this long-awaited 50mm 1.0 is going to be available. While this lens is not technically available until around the end of September, we are lucky enough to have one ahead of its release. The final firmware has not been released yet, so that is something to keep in mind. They do mention that the autofocus speeds should improve with that final firmware. Something that is nice to see is that this is a WR lens, which means it is a weather-resistant lens, allowing you to shoot in dust, rain, or even freezing environments. For those who like to nerd out on the details like myself, this lens features 12 elements in 9 groups, 2 of which are ED elements and 1 is an spherical element. The focus ring rotates 120 degrees, allowing you to pinpoint your focus without much issue. The lens is quite a bit larger than the 56mm 1.2, which until now boasted the fastest aperture in the Fujifilm lens lineup. The 50mm comes in at 845 grams, which is quite a bit heavier than the 56mm at 405 grams. And as you can see here, the lens is quite larger than the 56mm. You know, the lens mounted onto an XT3 or XT4 feels pretty nice and it doesn't really feel imbalanced. I took the lens out to downtown Palm Springs during the blue hour in early evening. My goal was to go out and shoot everything handheld wide open at f1. I did take it out attached to a Fujifilm X-T4 to take advantage of the IBIS. I was thinking that that camera and lens was going to weigh me down quite a bit as I walked up and down the empty streets of downtown Palm Springs, but that really wasn't the case. It never felt overly heavy when I had it attached to a Peak Design slide strap. The autofocus is not the fastest in the Fujifilm lineup, but it's definitely faster than the 56mm. And honestly, it's still really fast. Something to keep in mind is that this lens has to move some large pieces of glass, which directly affects the autofocus speeds of any lens. There were times that I thought it didn't focus, but after reviewing a photo, it had already adjusted the focus and the image was tack sharp. Speaking of sharp, this lens is tack sharp wide open. As you can see, the lens is sharp at f1 and it offers quite a bit less chromatic aberration than the 56mm wide open around the highlight. The main reason I decided to head down to downtown Palm Springs in the evening was to really take advantage of the f1 aperture, which is 2/3 of a stop faster than the old 56mm here. When shooting wide open, I was able to maintain 1/125th of a second with ISO around 1000 for most of the evening. You know, if you plan on shooting this lens wide open during daylight hours outside, you're gonna need to take advantage of the electronic shutter, and you still may even need a 3-stop ND filter. The lens will focus pretty close, and it only needs to be about a little more than 2 feet away to achieve its minimum focus distance. Even at the minimum focus distance, this lens is still crazy sharp. Overall, I'm personally super excited about this lens. I've been waiting for this day ever since the frame lines for a 33mm f1 were discovered in the X Pro 2. I would have loved to have this lens back when I was shooting weddings. This is going to be an amazing addition to any portrait or wedding photographer's kit. As always, you can hit the link down below to be taken over to camerawest.com where you can find more information on the lens as well as place an order. If you enjoyed this video or are excited about this lens, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to hear what you think about this lens, and if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. You can also reach down to any of our locations if you have a question. My name is Adam, and I'll see you next time.